对于刚刚举行过的马习会，达赖跟他身边的人非常的注意。达赖在访谈当中特别强调，习近平是新一代的领导人，跟过去的领导人是很不一样的。他对于跟他见面并不排斥。他也提到之前毛泽东在跟他讲的时候，提到宗教是鸦片，但是习近平却强调佛教是中国文明的重要资产。Ever have the chance to meet with Xi Jinping? What would the first thing you would say to him?
Oh,
It's possible since Taiwan President Ma
yes.
has been.
As I think, as usual, whenever I meet people or public talk, I always mentioning, now time come, we have to think 7 billion human beings are same human being. So we need sense of oneness of 7 billion human being. If we emphasize the sameness or same human being, think humanity, then you see these different religious faith, different nationality, you see, different sort of the concept, these are secondary level. So in China, most populated nation, I think now over because of 1.34 billions, most populated nation. At the same time, is China. It's a very ancient nation, and Chinese people hardworking. So, I think Chinese government should act like Chinese people, realistic, hardworking. Just you see one ideology here, and always thinking according to that ideology, sometimes not necessarily realistic. Like Chairman Mao Zedong's ideology, thinking something very big, and make effort, like Cultural Revolution, failed. So we should be realistic. I think People's Republic of China, I think, really can make immense sort of say, contribution, better world, happier world, peaceful world. That I made, if there's possibility. And also you see, if he shows smile and sort of intimacy sort of attitude, then I will tell these things. If too much official, formal, then greeting, how are you? Fine.
If you decide, if at this meeting ever take place, I'm sure it's going to be a successful meeting. But do you think that this meeting will ever take place? Do you willing to meet with him without any condition?
Certainly. Firstly, China, as I mentioned earlier, big nation, most popular nation, ancient nation, leader really very, very important to lead such country. And then there are a large number of Buddhists in China, according to some information, over 400 millions. Then Xi Jinping, president, himself expressed, I think 2 years ago, 1 year ago, in Paris, when he toured Europe, in Paris, as well as in Delhi, both places, he expressed Buddhism is an important part of Chinese culture. It's quite surprising. A communist leader now saying something positive about Buddhism. So when I met Chairman Mao Zedong, 1954, 56, several times, one occasion Chairman Mao Zedong told me religion is opium, poison. and he sort of mentioned me, my thinking is very much sort of scientific way of thinking. So then he told me religion is poison. If Chairman Mao Zedong still alive, I think, I'm quite sure, he may say Buddhism is something different. Because now a lot of scientists now really showing interest in Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist concept. So in any way, Xi Jinping's thinking seems to say more open and more realistic. So I'm hopeful. And then regarding the Tibet issue, whether Chinese government acknowledge or not, there is problem. So the Chinese government very much reluctant to allow some foreign, media people or some delegations. Now recently, the American Congress delegation is allowed.
Mr.
That's
Pelosi,
good.
right?
Yes, my great friend.
Right.
Many years.
Right.
Yes.
Why do you think they changed their policy and allow her and also British finance minister going to visit Tibet?
Yes. I think now this is the indication of the top leaders' thinking. So leaders were changing, following more realistic. So these are, I think, like the praising Buddhism. These are the positive indication. There's no question. And then also he very much emphasizes the rule of law. That also very important. I often, telling my sort of meeting with some Chinese friends, I always tell him, 1.3 billion Chinese people have every right to know the reality. Once Chinese people knows the reality, they also have the ability to judge what's right, what's wrong. So censorship is immoral. You see, no matter how hard, so to say, tight sort of censorship in Peking will not cover Taiwan and India. So then censorship affects only their own people, not whole world. If Chinese government sort of control media, can cover whole world, then okay. so therefore, censorship, I think, should not carry. This is one thing, my request. Usually, I express. Then, law. I very much sort of appreciate the Xi Jinping emphasis rule of law. So, law, judiciary system should improve standard of international jurisdiction. Then I think millions of Chinese people, poor people, I think get some kind of protection. I met, from time to time, I met Chinese from mainland China, some intellectuals, some Buddhists, and one occasion, one patient, very poor. I asked him, the condition about his own village area. And then he answered me, nobody take care these poor farmers. The local leaders, their only concern is money. And their position used for money, not pay attention about poor people. So, the millions of poor people, helpless. No one take care. So, the judiciary system, independent judiciary system, there, and these poor people, I think, really get much benefit. I feel that. So that I always telling, expressing. Like that. Then those Chinese Buddhists, I always telling. Of course, I respect all religion, as I mentioned earlier. All have same potential. One differences in the philosophical way, because of the philosophical ways, and then also the approach, Buddhism in general, particularly Nalanda tradition. Also, the way is human intelligence, utilize maximum way. Through that way, transform our emotion. That's so-called Mahayana or Sanskrit tradition. That's the way of approach. So Buddha himself, you see, told us, oh my follower, monks, nuns, scholars should not accept my teaching out of faith. So that means he telling his Chinese Buddhist brothers, sisters, you should not content Amitabha, Amitabha. So Buddha said, should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment. So that's very much scientific way. So therefore, you see, we have to utilize our intelligence. So therefore, I have full courage, you see, meeting with scientists and discuss. When at the beginning, this is my sort of desire, meeting with scientists, dialogue with scientists. One my friend, one American Buddhist, he told me, oh, be careful. Science is killer of religion, so be careful. Then I thought, no, Buddha himself, you see, oh, you should carry investigation and experiment. That now scientists doing that way. So as a result, now over 30 years, you see my sort of, serious discussion with modern scientists, mainly cosmology, psychology, and then physics and neurons, brain specialist, and then physics, particularly quantum physics. So in these four fields, you see, we have serious discussions. So as a result, now we Buddhists, you see, we learned very, very useful knowledge or information from scientific research about matters, particles, waves, all these things, like Einstein's theory of relativity, and also the quantum physics, these things are wonderful. The quantum physics, the concept of quantum physics, and Buddhist Madhyamika, there are many similarities. So in any way, so then to scientists, they really more and more sort of discussion, more and more scientists now really showing interest to learn more about human psychology, human mind. Sometimes I maybe a little bit too bold. Sometimes I describe modern psychology, compare ancient Indian psychology. Modern psychology looks like kindergarten. Ancient Indian psychology, highly developed. Now that psychology, we, Tibetan Buddhists, we kept that over 1,000 years, intact. Their own original land in India, now many of the spiritual leaders, spiritual person, more relying on rituals. And also Chinese brothers, sisters, also you see, Amitabha, 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 Jindu, Jindu, like that. So therefore, I always was telling my Chinese Buddhist brothers, sisters, when I met, please pay more attention for study. It's very important. Like Mula Madhyamika, like that. It is available in Chinese, ancient Chinese translation. Some of the Nagarjuna, Rosu Busa's, you see, writing, already there. So please pay more attention instead of Amitabha, Amitabha, and give some, what's the red envelope, red. So that I want to share. Our Chinese Buddhist brothers, sisters, please pay more attention for study.
You mentioned there's millions of Chinese Buddhists now there. Most of them are middle class. They are quite influential. Do you think they will make the policy change in China one day that you and the Chinese government can find a common ground?
I don't know. Maybe too early to say. As I mentioned earlier, Xi Jinping himself, there's a very much sort of interest. I think seems to see his attitude to Buddhism is something that's different, unlike the previous But how much, you see, he can do, that's the question. The whole system, you see, not one individual
Right.
May not sort of move much. The whole system is such.